Hello everybody and welcome to your next free singing lesson. We've got Izzy here again.
Hello.
Okay. We're actually recording a whole load of videos today, so in case you're thinking, oh, they're in the same outfit that they were last time, we're doing about 10 or 15 videos tonight. So thanks Izzy for being our demonstrator. And Izzy's going to demonstrate for you now a slightly unusual vocal exercise, which is really good for getting the thyroarytenoid muscle, which is the muscle around the vocal cords, to stretch, relax and to work it a little bit, get it warmed up and get some of the cartilages in here to do exactly what they need to do to allow you to soar to your high notes and easily get down to your low notes as well. So without further ado, can you show us how this next exercise goes?
Yep.
It's an unusual sound. The sound is goes through the R vowel and the A vowel, and we use an M to get the whole thing going. And it sounds like this: AH-AY-MAH. Give us a demonstration, Izzy.
Okay.
And we start on a B flat, which isn't the easiest note. You should start, if you have control of this, start in your head voice. If you're unsure what that term means, have a listen to this sound that Izzy's going to do and try and copy that sound. It's a softer sound. Certainly don't force it. Never force, and don't be too loud. Okay, show us how it goes, Izzy. Excellent. As you go, you want to make sure all the time that you're feeling as relaxed as possible. And as we head down the scale from the B flat, you should feel slightly more and more relaxed. And relaxed quite often equates with being slightly quieter, slightly quieter, slightly quieter. So here we're going to reduce the volume slightly. And from here on down, it really should feel like you're doing almost nothing. There's no effort involved at all. It's just very loose. Now this exercise doesn't take much air, so we do have to be a little bit careful with our air. Izzy's doing it absolutely perfectly. She's just moderating as she goes. She realised on one that perhaps she was breathing in a bit too much, so on the next exercise she just breathed slightly less, and she adjusted it to make sure she felt comfortable. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And you want to make sure you do that as well. It doesn't use much air, this exercise, but that doesn't mean that you have to let go of all the air that you have within you in between each exercise. You can just leave some air in there. And just use 20% of your air supply. So maybe you're 60% full before you start, and when you finish the exercise you're 40% full, and then you just top up that tiny bit of air back up to 60, and then you're back down to 40, and you just work in that region, not going right up to 80% where we might feel just a little bit too tense, but at the same time just not letting all the air go every single time you do it. Okay, it's good practice for those little sip breaths that we quite often need to take in songs. Can we go up the scale to the difficult notes? Mm-hmm. Now as we work up the scale, there'll be a little bit more pressure behind the breath. That just happens naturally. Let's see what happens. Just move that way a fraction. There we go. 1, 2. Perfect. 1. Good. At this point, you may not be able to hear that clearly at home. It takes a while to spot these things, but at that point Izzy's voice has really released and started to stretch. There's a very healthy quality in the sound. You may have noticed that it just seems to get slightly louder, is something you would notice is quite obvious about that. It starts to project a bit more, the resonance is ringing in her head a little bit more, and that's because she's been doing these exercises now for a long time. Lots of practice, 4 years of regular once a week, working on her voice, working on exercises. So don't expect to feel that freedom on that note that she's feeling there straight away. It takes time, it takes regular practice, and make sure you rest. So you don't do it every day. Every other day is a far better idea if you can, or every 2 or 3 days. Carrying on up the scale. And perfection. Very good. Good. The last ma is very difficult. On the previous exercise, Izzy just tried to hold it for a little bit, which is a nice idea to test herself. She's always trying to push forward and improve her singing, which is great. But actually, it's so difficult to hold that last ma. It's quite often a better idea just to touch it, as she did on the last one. Well done, very good. Very good. Good. One of the best things she's doing here, you'll notice that her posture is not really changing at all. She's just staying in a very good, what is often referred to in classical singing as the noble posture. And her jaw is nice and loose, but she's not putting her head up or putting her head on one side. She's very balanced. Very much as recommended by Alexander technique. If you studied any Alexander technique, you should be thinking along those lines as you're singing. Trying to stay as relaxed as possible so you can feel where the energy should be. And where do you feel the energy as you sing there?
Depending on where we are in the exercise, sometimes pushing from here, sometimes from here, but mostly here, I'd say.
So there's an old there's an old adage which is don't sing from here, sing from down here, but it actually doesn't go from there straight to down here. We gradually work the voice until you're technically advanced enough to start feeling like the work is coming from your body and not from your throat, and that's what Izzy is. That's what Izzy is feeling now. She's feeling like the work is coming from the correct place. But it is quite hard work, isn't it?
Yeah.
As you will know if you're doing this at home, and you should be, singing along at home. Don't let her do all the work. The idea is that you join in with all of this. Once more, that one. Good. Very good. Now, that's the highest note we've done today, and because Izzy's already done one exercise today, she already did the EAR exercise that you can watch in a previous video. So now we're going to push up to the very highest notes, and these are a bit of a challenge, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's for sure. Don't worry if the sound goes a little bit haywire at this point, if your sound seems to go a little bit out of tune. We want to try and stay in tune. It's likely to go a fraction, perhaps a little too high, and that would be because the vocal cords are stretching a bit more than you're used to. So in which case, just try and keep the feeling lower in your body and everything nice and calm and relaxed and settle down onto the pitch. But certainly don't let it make you get tense or put you off. And if there's anyone around who's taking the mickey or out of the sounds that you're practicing or things like that, make sure you do it where nobody can hear you, nobody disturbs you, nobody puts you off. We don't want any of that. We just want to be able to exercise our voice very freely and not worry about any of the sounds which are coming out, but instead just to allow the body to stretch and strengthen and build. Okay, Izzy, show us how these top notes should be done when you're warming up. And perfect. So she'd spotted, I think, that initially her voice just went a little bit sharp on the pitch, and she kind of settled into it very well. That's very normal on an E. So very good. And we go up to an F. Very good. What do you feel at this point? How's it feeling for you?
I feel like I have to
see if the people at home can relate to what you're feeling when they do it.
I have to stand quite strong, because otherwise I feel like if I stand too weakly, then it's not going to give out the right sound.
Yeah.
I have to surge a little bit, but not too much, and use my muscles down here.
So you feel like the energy is coming from here
yeah.
and from lower down as well.
Yeah.
Excellent, which is as she should feel at this point. Keep thinking sideways. So that's a very good F for this age and voice type. Let's try the F sharp, and then the very highest one for this exercise would be a high G. Just come around a fraction that way so they can see you. Very good. Now this F sharp is a very difficult note. Can you describe what you feel? Any discomfort?
It feels a little bit uncomfortable around here sometimes if you're pushing too hard, but it's a good idea to use your chest a lot and kind of keep breathing in.
When you sound comfortable, does it feel like it's straining, stretching, working?
Yeah, it feels like it's stretching, sometimes straining if you go in the completely wrong place, but I also feel like I'm going sideways a lot, which is good as well. So
she said a very interesting thing there. It can feel like it's straining a bit if you get it in the wrong place. And you may know as a singer, you may have heard people talk about placement quite a bit. And that's something that a singer feels within their body. You feel like when it's in the right place, everything feels really nice. Now this is a very difficult note. It's very difficult to get it just in the right place. But when you do, when your voice is warmed up and you get it in the right spot, it comes out with a great sense of ease and freedom. Can we have a go at the very highest one for this exercise?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we give it a shot. And last one for the high G. Keep it low on the body though. 1, go. Very good, excellent, well done Izzy. Okay, so she started there, and maybe you could hear it at home, that the sound quality changed as she sang it. You felt it yourself.
Yeah, I felt it as well. Also, when you're singing, sometimes if you're going to a high note, sometimes in your voice there's 2 muscles in there kind of doing this, and sometimes it makes a sound, which I felt just then. So
she felt, you may have heard that, but I doubt it actually at home because it's very slight on the outside, but to you it's very obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, very obvious.
So just like when you're doing quite an extreme stretch in ballet or in gymnastics or something like that, sometimes you actually get a feeling across the joint and the ligament, and as you described, it feels a little bit like something in the throat goes, just this little noise, and it normally leads to a greater sense of freedom. But these kind of extreme notes should be attempted very carefully and ideally in the presence of a singing teacher